Thanks for tuning in to part 7 of Legio Enigmatum. I really hope you're enjoying the story so far. If you're new, consider going back to part 1 and starting from the beginning. If you'd consider giving me a like and subscribe, it would really help the channel grow. Thank you, and feel free to recommend it to your friends. Let's get back to the story. Legio Enigmatum, Part 7. The skies above Elysium IX burned gold and violet as the Matadors Patient fleet emerged from the warp. It was not a vast armada, only a dozen ships in total, but each was forged for war. Black-hulled and golden-trimmed, the cruisers and strike vessels of the Matadors Patient moved into high orbit like shadows pulled taut against the stars. At their centre loomed the Echo of Lament, the chapter's flagship, its hull pockmarked with signs of recent war. Transports dropped like falcons to the surface, collecting the warriors who had fought across the sun-scorched plains of the Lion's World and ferried them back to their home of cold iron. Down at the foot of the Lion's Gate, Koja M'Baku stood in the first light of morning, watching a black-armoured thunderhawk kick up golden dust. As the ramp descended, Decius Thorne walked towards him, helm under one arm. The two clasped forearms. "You are a mystery to me, Decius," Koja said, his gold-clad fingers tightening briefly. "You and your chapter all, but I am glad you came. I believe my sons would be dead in the dust without your bolters and blades." Decius inclined his head. "And we would not be half the chapter we are had we not bled beside the lions. We are a chapter without a world. It is good to be reminded of what having a people means." Koja gave a grim smile. There was plainly something on his mind. The voice of the pride had too honest a face to be capable of deception. "These shards you carry." He glanced skywards, as if watching the cursed fragments ascend to the fleet above. "I understand your master's logic, but I am not convinced it is wise. You are right to question him." "I said nothing after the council," Decius replied. "But your face said much during it, even if your words were chained," Koja said. Decius nodded. "Do you know of whom the bust was that the shards made up?" asked Koja. Decius shook his head, regretful and rueful. "May I tell you a story few know?" asked Koja. "You are the voice of the pride. Trying to stop you telling stories is like trying to stop a hyena laughing." Koja smiled. But then the smile faded. "On Armageddon, where my chapter nearly met its end, and would have without the help of the Black Templars, there was a loyalist chapter called the Relictors. Have you heard of them?" Decius shook his head. "I do not know the entire story, but they are a fallen chapter now. They fell after attempting to recover a shard of an axe from a monolith on Armageddon that was known to bear the name of the Dark Primarch, Angron. They were declared excommunicae traitoris, as I understand, after utilizing chaos artifacts in war." "I understand what you are telling me," said Decius. "If your chapter insists on keeping these things, I urge you, take them to a distant star, cast them into the sun where no demon nor man may retrieve them. Burn the memory of them from this galaxy, or risk the fate of the Relictors," said Decius. "You are a strange chapter," Koja said at length, the words softened by the affection in his voice. "My spirit walkers and death speakers both say they feel something displaced about your kind. Not corrupted, but unmoored, as though your souls are cast across different skies." Decius did not know what that meant. He had only known his brothers since he awoke from cold sleep, and it was easy to find a people's normal where you were among them, and one of them. But then he remembered the feeling he had when he was woken from his sleep, like there was a part of himself missing, or that could not be reached, like some impenetrable wall now warded his soul. Koja turned slightly, his eyes on the horizon, now beautifully blue and free for the first time in months of any form of smoke. "You told Call your chapter heralds from Salamander gene seed. We carry the blood of Vulcan," Decius confirmed. Koja nodded. "That explains your desire to help my people. I have been among the sons of Vulcan many times, and know them to have this form of honor. And your eyes, their eyes too are dark, but completely. Yours have irises, albeit only thin rings. There is natural deviation with every chapter," said Decius. "You herald from Rogel Dawn, but you are not half so boring as his imperial fists." Koja smiled again. He was an old soul, but still appreciated the impertinence of a young marine. "A chapter's history is as important as its future," said the voice of the pride. "Remember that as you go forward, Decius. History is the anchor that will keep your ship steady in a storm." Think more on your future than our past, said Decius. You have a chapter to rebuild. Please seize this period of peace to do that. Gather recruits from the tribes. Use the Primaris technology we brought you. Add to your ranks. And for the Emperor's sake, man, appoint a new chapter master. You should think of stepping into the role yourself. I'm sure the chance of beheading by Calidus' assassin is reduced by now. You are a funny man, Decius, but sometimes your black humour goes too far, said Kosher. I apologize, it is inherent in our gene seed. Kosher grunted, but then smirked. We will rebuild, and it is thanks to the Matadors Patient. Decius nodded. You know there is another Lion's Gate upon Terra, said Decius, looking upon the Lion's modest stone fortress. I have heard, and I'm sure it is far smaller and less impressive than ours, said Kosher. Of course, said Decius with another laugh. He stepped back and offered a final salute. Kosher returned it. Walk well, Decius Thorne. Know you are always welcome round our campfires, and if you return, I hope it is in peace. With that, Decius turned and disappeared into the belly of the Thunderhawk. The ramp sealed, and the ship soared into the open sky. Within the war chamber of the Echo of Lament, the light was dim. Walls of engraved obsidian steel rose around the gathered council. Malric Draven stood at the head of the room, flanked by Voidir Alzar, Sergeant Karas, Calbron Vortek, and other captains drawn from the chapter's companies, reunited now after their pursuit of the Pure. I am told you have all been briefed upon the events on Elysium IX, said Malric, looking at his captains who had not been present for the war. They all nodded. Perhaps now is the time that you share with all your captains what the shards were part of, said Decius. All heads turned to him, and Vortek attempted to open a private vox channel. Decius ignored the chime in his helm. He would not be dissuaded from his aim. I had chosen it to be such, said Malric, turning to the Voidira. The black-robed marine gave Decius a final look, which Decius returned without flinching, and then a humming monolith buzzed into life at the chamber's centre. The bust, created from shards of the screaming gallery, hovered in the air. Decius took half a step forward in surprise. It turned slowly, lit from within by a pale green light. The face was that of a man, noble, stern-jawed. His head was shaved, and the ridges of his strong cheekbones were etched with a sculpture's delicate precision. But his mouth was open in a scream, lips twisted in endless rage. The pupils of both his eyes were hollow, receding into a deep cavern in the skull. A section of the bust had been violently defaced, with deliberate fury. Chisel marks were still visible, as if the sculptor had tried to hurriedly erase the face after completing his masterful work, but had been stopped before he could. None of this was what alarmed Decius, however. What alarmed him was the familiarity of the face. We do not believe the damage to the bust are missing shards. The marks are ancient, and of different quality to the shard's edges, said the Voidira. The destruction of this section of the bust happened before the head was splintered. The damage was inflicted by a manual tool. Silence hung heavy in the chamber. Calbron was the first to speak. It looks like one of us. It does, said Voidir Elzar. The hologram continued to rotate, casting its ghost light over each of the matadors. As its hollowed eyes passed Decius, he was sure he could see a thin corona pupil, just like his own, finely etched into the edges of the recess. Who is it? Asked one of the captains. We do not know, said Alzar. No records, no texts. We searched all pictographic databases and found only passing resemblances. We have no way of knowing its origin, and dating the Black Stone is impossible. The Night Lords made this and kept it hidden, or else they found it, and it was recovered from long ago. How large is it? Said Decius. The hologram is to scale, said Alzar. So the head is larger than any human, or even any Primaris marines. It is either larger than life, or the man was a giant, said Decius. Do you think the Night Lords intended us to have it? Said Calbron. Who can say, said Alzar. The most likely reason for the Night Lords' actions is still to allow chaos a foothold on Elysium, or coax retribution from the Inquisition. It cannot be a coincidence that it resembles our chapter, said Decius, and resembles our chapter master most of all. A muscle in Malric's jaw worked. You say the marks on the face are ancient. Do we know who tried to damage the bust, or why? Said Calbron. He did not like the manner in which his captain was trying his chapter master's patience. Why do people usually destroy things? To hide something, said Decius. We can only guess that the sculptor attempted to undo his work and purge the image, said the Voidira. The bust continued to turn, screaming into eternity. The hollows of its eyes were like bottomless graves. I will ask again, chapter master, Decius said. Why do we carry these things with us? You saw how they corrupted the people of Elysium. We are Astartes, but if history has taught us one thing, it is that Astartes are not immune from corruption. You are a captain of my legion. You speak out of turn, said Malric, his voice a rumbling warning. Your chapter, you mean, said Decius. The correction only seemed to stoke Malric's fury. Hold your tongue, brother, said Calbron. Do you believe we are immune to this thing's taint, said Decius, or are we such fools as to believe the Night Lords did not leave these shards intentionally to expose us to them, the chapter that resembles the bust? Malric's colossal Terminator-clad bulk took a step towards Decius. Decius did not move. You believe we are the target, or that we are already tainted, said another of the chapter's captains. I believe no chapter is immune to the corruption of the warp, said Decius. We carry Vulcan's gene seed, yes, but we are men, like those on Elysium, whose minds were twisted by these shards. A long silence followed. The screaming hollow this somehow made the silence deeper. Decius stepped forward, gesturing to the reconstructed bust. You have gathered every shard and brought them together. Whatever its original nature, it is now whole again, and you cannot tell me this thing is inert. You fear its power, said Malric. I am Astartes, I know no fear, but I know foolishness, Decius said, and I know what it did to the elders and to the villagers we slew. He looked around at the other officers, his voice growing stronger. Has no one heard of the Relictors? Alzar stirred, but said nothing. They were loyal. They fought valiantly through the Third War of Armageddon, but they too decided to dabble in chaos-corrupted artifacts. They thought their will was enough. And now, he looked at each of the other captains in turn. The open challenge to the will of the chapter master had never been witnessed in the Echo of Lament before. Now they are gone, Decius continued, declared excommunicate traitoris, hunted. You insult us, Malric growled, his voice rising, to liken us to scavengers of demon-wrought relics. I speak a warning, Decius bellowed. This is how it happens, he thought. One man's pride and belief he could stand where others fell. It is a risk we have considered between the Voidera Brotherhood and I have given my command, said Malric. Calbron stirred, and another soft chime in Decius's helm told him the Battle Brother was trying to open a private channel again. You are proud, and that will be the chink in the armour this thing exploits, Decius growled. You will keep silent, and you will not question my command again. Decius threw up a hand. Look at the thing. It is cast in our shape. Silence. I am not your enemy, Malric, but pride will destroy this chapter faster than any Night Lord's blade. Malric brought one fist down on the hollow table, and the bust shivered in the air. Then what would you have us do? Calbron said, hoping to steer the conversation away from a direct challenge. Hand it to the Inquisition? Yes, Decius said. We do not carry this thing into the void. We should deliver it to the Inquisition. They are the keepers of such things. Perhaps we claim we recovered it from the wreckage of a Night Lord ship we destroyed. Elysium is spared. The lions remain unsullied, and we do not gamble our souls. Malric turned slowly towards him. You are naive, Thorne. You think the Inquisition cannot smell a lie? Decius took a step closer, his voice hardening. I think you're letting your pride blind you. And you think your fear makes you wise, Malric bellowed. We are not the Relictors. We do not seek to use this thing, only to contain it. Then destroy it now, Decius snapped. Cast it into the closest star before we risk another moment. Malric's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. You presume to give me orders. I will not stand by and watch our chapter fall, Decius said, not in silence. Malric looked at Calbron. Restrain him, he said. Listen to me, Decius said, but Calbron stepped forward, sorrow on his face. Steel-clad hands closed on his arms. Summon the quadrilla, said Malric. You witness how it begins, said Decius, looking at the other captains. All you see is how to deal with a mutineer who fails to obey orders, growled Malric. In moments his bodyguard were there. They seized Decius. Two with their shortest Stoke swords held ready. Servo braces engaged, pinning him. Malric stepped forward, face grim. You will not challenge my authority. You will not endanger this mission or the people of Elysium. You will not fracture our chapter with your dissent. You are relieved of command. Brother Agoras, the Tech Marine stepped forward. Strip him of his battle plate, said Malric. The Tech Marine needed no further instruction. Decius's armour hissed as his chest plate was disengaged by multiple servo arms. The honour markings of the Matador Patient officer were ripped away from his arm. His weapons were taken. If you were to put me to death, I will die a true servant of the Imperium. I hope you experience the same, Decius spat. I do not fear for my honour. We will not kill you. You will be marooned on Elysium, Malric said. There you may reflect, perhaps even watch, should the Inquisition come for them. Stripped of his armour, but unbowed, Decius was marched to the launch bay. A drop pod stood ready, its doors open. Decius was shoved into it by the same space marines who had seized him. He stumbled, but then straightened. Half a dozen red eye lenses bore into him. "Do not fear for my honour, brothers, fear for your own," said Decius. "You disobey the direct command of your chapter master. You have no honour," said Quadrilla Maxim Var. "Watch for the corruption, that it might not become you," Decius said through gritted teeth, looking at Calbron. It was a heartfelt warning that fought past his rage. Decius was given no further word of farewell, only the cold hiss of the pod doors sealing around him. Then the clamps released. Decius grabbed for a harness as the thing dropped, and Decius Thorne, once a rising officer of the Matadors Patient, fell like a cast spear through the atmosphere of Elysium IX. Thank you for listening. As always, I'm really keen to hear where you think the story could or should go. Drop some suggestions in the comment and I'll be sure to reply.